Alright, this video is going to talk about Romeo and Juliet and how all the characters are intertwined throughout Shakespeare's play. So first off, we have Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, Romeo is a Montague, Juliet is a Capulet, and they are in love. However, there's a problem because their families are feuding. Let's talk about Romeo first. Romeo, picture him that he's cute and smart and sensitive, but also impulsive. So he doesn't really think about what he's saying or doing before he says or does it because he's immature. He doesn't really care about the feud going on between the Montagues and the Capulets because he's a romantic at heart. And then we have his mother, Lady Montague. Lady Montague is his mother, who dies of grief after she discovers that Romeo is banished from Verona. And then we have Romeo's father, and he's the head of the Montagues. He worries about Romeo's sadness throughout the play. And then we have Balthazar. Balthazar is Romeo's servant, and he's the one who tells Romeo that Juliet is dead, but doesn't know that this is a fake death. And then we have Abram. Abram is a servant of the Montagues, who in the beginning of the play, he fights a couple guys, and we'll talk about them in a little while. And then we have Benvolio. Benvolio is Romeo's cousin and friend. He likes to keep the peace, and so he tries to break up fights. He counsels Romeo about love to make him feel better. And then we have Mercutio. Mercutio is good friends with Romeo. He has a bad temper, and he doesn't like emotional people, which is ironic because Romeo is a very emotional person. He believes that love is about the physical contact and really nothing else. Let's go to the other side and talk about the Capulets, and the main character is Juliet. Juliet begins to play as a naive child. She doesn't really have as much freedom as Romeo because she's a girl, so she has to sneak around to see Romeo. She totally trusts Romeo in what he says and hopes will become of the two of them, and she's really close friends with the nurse, and we'll talk about her in a second too. We have her father, Lord Capulet. Lord Capulet is feuding, or he's fighting with Lord Montague. Lord Capulet, he truly loves Juliet as his daughter, but doesn't really know what her feelings are and what her dreams are. He has a bad temper when things don't go his way, and he commands respect. And he, again, is the head of the Capulets. His wife, Lady Capulet, is Juliet's mother. She has relied on the nurse to mother or raise Juliet, and she herself was married at a young age. So she wants Juliet to marry at a young age as well, in which both Lord Capulet and Lady Capulet want Juliet to marry Paris. And as mentioned earlier, we have the nurse. The nurse has cared for Juliet ever since she was born. Know that she is vulgar, she's long-winded, but she's a loyal person who Juliet can confide in and tell how she's feeling. She's the messenger between Romeo and Juliet throughout the play. However, Juliet and the nurse have a falling out about Romeo and how things should unfold. And then we have those guys that Abram fought before, Samson and Gregory. They're servants of the Capulets. Abram, Samson, and Gregory, they're really not main characters, but definitely ones to know about at the beginning of the play and not mix up with the ones later on. And then we have Tibble. Tibble is Juliet's cousin. He's vain, so he's all about himself. He's caught into how he looks, in which he's fashionable. However, he's very much into proper etiquette. He's very prideful. He's well trained in sword fighting, so he's someone that you should be careful with, and in which Mercutio dies from Tybalt, and in turn, Tybalt is killed by Romeo. And then we have Paris. Paris is the suitor, or the person that the Capulet, Lord Capulet and Lady Capulet want Juliet to marry. Paris, he treats Juliet inappropriately at the beginning when Lord Capulet and Lady Capulet say that he can marry her, and in the end is killed by Romeo in the Capulet tomb. And then we have the Prince of Verona. He's concerned about maintaining the public peace, and so he's the one who banishes Romeo from Verona, in which Lady Montague dies when she discovers that. However, he's kind of caught between the Capulets and the Montagues because he's related to Mercutio and also to Paris. And then we have Rosalind. Rosalind, in the beginning, is who Romeo is really obsessed with. Romeo hasn't seen Juliet yet, so the person who Romeo is obsessed with, in love with at that time, is Rosalind. But once he sees Juliet, that's over. And then we have the Apothecary. The Apothecary is kind of like a pharmacist. He sells the poison to Romeo when Romeo wants to kill himself, and he values money more than he does morals. And then we have Friar Laurence. Friar Laurence is a good friend of Romeo and Juliet. He's a kind and civic-minded man in which he secretly marries Romeo and Juliet in hopes that this marriage will end the feud between the Montagues and the Capulets. And then we have Friar John. Friar John is a friend of both Romeo and Juliet, in which he's sent to tell Romeo about Juliet's fake death. However, he's quarantined or held up in a house and can't get that message to Romeo. So Romeo believes wholeheartedly that Juliet is dead. So these are all the main characters, at least throughout the play. I hope this helps keep them separate and how they are all related to each other.